So I'm just going to navigate to maybe sales order inquiries here, and we'll just pull up, let's say, a OneView open sales inquiry. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and just get some data in our grid. So for those of you who are already OneView users, this would be pretty repetitious. For those of you who are not or are looking to use it, you'll probably learn something here. So I just chose, all columns, so we'll expose. I think part of the biggest advantage of OneView reporting, in my opinion, are these OneView inquiry grids. They provide you, a lot of the lookups for the different descriptive and dimensions you might have, all the category codes, a few calculations in there. So that the kind of underlying architecture that are delivering that is the value. I think the canned reports, it's pretty easy to build your own, but I think these inquiry grids are, if you're going to use OneView reporting, very advantageous. So when you want to build a new OneView report, we'll get our grid of data, and you'll need to notice the OneView option up here. If we select that, we'll have these are canned reports that come with. You can also go down here and add reports. So we're going to choose on add reports. And now, once we chose add reports, you'll notice we have all these green pluses on each of the columns in the grid. And this is where we can go in and start checking those off. And then as I check the boxes, you'll notice that there now can be our selections that will be available for us in our report design. Let me go ahead and keep just getting some good content here. Item descriptions. Grab our status. Next status. Maybe our order date. All right. Maybe our year. And we grab a few measures here as well. So maybe let's say quantity ordered, quantity shipped. Grab our calculated profit. Our extended price, extended cost. And you notice on the far right of some of the core values, you'll see some additional category codes or user-defined codes. We'll go ahead and pull some of those as well. So like sales cat code 1, 2, 3. Let's grab a few more. Maybe we want to grab some. Okay. All right, so we've got enough data here, and this might be allowing us to build maybe several different reports or views of the data. I'm going to choose Retrieve All Records, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. And I'll give this a name. So we'll call this our Sales Ad Hoc Report. So this is now going to open up the interface, and you'll see similarities. So you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner here, this is BI Publisher Enterprise. So from this point forward, when we actually build a report later on in BI Publisher Enterprise, it's in essence using the same authoring tools to build reports. And so that's nice, there's some overlap there. Under Shared Templates, under Show All, when we load up, there's 3 preferred strategies templates that we actually are providing. And they're just the boilerplate templates to kind of give you a brief accelerator in using the tool. So I'm going to start with this interactive, preferred strategies interactive landscape. And in this template, it's, we've got just a title at the top. We've got some integrated grids. We've got these lists. We'll kind of walk through those, a pie chart, a bar chart, and a pivot table. Reason why we like pivot tables is that they automatically aggregate the data, whereas if you go here to a data table, it does not aggregate data. So if you just pull in a field like customer and amount, it'll give you, in essence, the same customer name repeated 20 times and value repeated for different, so it doesn't give you an aggregate the data, and the pivot table does. So that's why we like to have a pivot table. But let's go ahead and we'll call this will be our interactive sales report. Okay. So again, these lists under the insert are just these lists right here. These are kind of dynamic filters that allow you to kind of quickly filter down your data set. So maybe in this case, we want to use our sales code 1 description, maybe our sales code 2 description, and maybe let's pull our sold to name, branch plant, and maybe our year here, or maybe it's order date. We can actually pull, let's say, our last status. Okay. So, and I think as we get and we pull this with more data, we'll get more options there for us in our selection. So now if we wanted to build a pie chart off of, let's look at maybe our breakdown by customer. So I'll grab our sold to name. I'm going to drag that into a drop series here. And I'll grab our extended price and we'll drop that into our drop values here. Okay. And then as we get more data, we'll have that as a pie. The other thing, we have a title there of pie chart. If we go down here to properties and go to chart title, we'll see a pie chart. So we'll call this sales by customer. Okay. On the right, let's look at maybe doing a bar chart, looking at where we're now narrowing down to either one customer or just look at our gross profit by item, let's say. So go ahead and grab our item description. In this case, we'll drop this into our drop label here. And then we'll go and grab our calculated profit and drop that into our value. Okay. When we use the profit, when you use the a bar chart, if you're going to have a lot of data, it's best to do that as kind of like a top 10. So to do a top 10, we'll just click on, while that chart is selected, a filter. And we'll go up here and say, let's look at our calculated profit is equal to, but it is in top, and we'll put 10 here. So now we've got that. And just looking here as our pivot table, maybe we want to see one of our other category codes here. And we'll look at within that maybe our customer name and maybe down to the item. And now let's look at some values here. Our quantity ordered. And maybe we want to format that without decimals. Let's look at our extended price as dollars without decimals, and our calculated profit. Okay. Okay. So now to view this with data, right, we're still kind of in developer mode. First I have to save this layout. So we can actually create, one report can have multiple layouts. Just if you think about a spreadsheet can have multiple tabs, same kind of thing applies here. So we've got one data model set up. We can create multiple layouts on top of that data model. And I'll call this interactive sales report. Okay. And then to view this with data, we can go up here and choose interactive. And with the sampling of data we have here, again, this is not really showing. We'll go ahead and we'll pull this back with more data in a few minutes. But we do have the ability to kind of filter down and get to the data. We're going to show you that in just a minute. So let's go back. If we want to then build maybe a formatted report, slightly different where you're not seeing a bunch of charts and tables, that's another technique we've come up with. and we've actually created a template that we actually, one of the templates we deliver as a boilerplate. So let's walk through that together. In this space, we're going to build a row-based report, right? So it's something that's going to be coming and probably be distributed more of as like a PDF rather than an interactive, click-through type dashboardy type report. So I choose Add New, Layout, and we'll grab, let's say, our preferred strategies formatted portrait. Choose OK. So you'll notice in this one, slightly different. We've got, we'll call this a formatted sales report. And we've got a data table here. You notice we've got a detail, subtotal, and grand total. We use, again, you'll kind of see how we go about building these. It's different than the way we build the interactive reports. So what we have this table here is for our grouping. So I have to think, okay, I want to group this report by maybe customer and then item. So if I go and grab, let's say, our sold to name, drop that into this data table. Maybe our item description, we'll drop that into the data table. And then I'll just click on the first one. And if I click on that sold to name, under the grouping option, I can group left or group above. So we're going to want to group above here. When you group above, it creates this section. It'll have that as a header. And then you have, in essence, another section where you can put in your subtotals at the bottom. And let's go ahead and add one more group. So I'll click on item, and we'll also choose group above here. Okay. And now I can go back and just delete this extra table, because I really just had that table in there to be used to create my groups. We want to take our detail section down here. I'm going to drag this up above, put it right below that table. And now, instead of saying detail, I want to have our item description. So I'm going to grab that and just drag it down into this other section where I've got my detail. And I'll get rid of the text here, detail. Okay. We can then go take this block, delete that. And to have our sold to name, let's go ahead and get rid of that, the text there, sold to name. And we can go in here. I get my, expand that a little bit. We can also maybe bold that as our header. Okay. So now we've got this last section, the subtotal. I want to drag the subtotal and put that right between the two sections, and that will be where I'll put my subtotals. Okay. So now we've got 4 columns that we have. Let's drag in some values, and I'll show you how to aggregate and summarize the data and build some calculations as well. So if we go to quantity ordered, I'm going to drag quantity ordered into this grid because I want to see total quantity for each item as well as each customer. So if I have that selected, we want to make this a summation. Okay, and we also need to change our formatting. So I can format it, again, quantity without decimals. And now I want to copy that and put that in each of my subtotals. So if I copy, go down here and select that block and paste. That block and paste. Now we can go and grab, let's say, our extended price. And we'll do this as a sum. And we'll format this maybe as dollars. We'll copy that. And we'll paste. And we'll paste. Okay. Let's take our calculated profit. Drop that into our third column here. We'll make this a sum. Change this to a dollar format. We'll copy that. Paste. And paste. So now the last thing we want to do is, what if we wanted to calculate, because this is all aggregate data. There could be, 5,000 rows. Fortunately, with OneView reporting, I think you're kind of around 10,000 rows, so you can have less than that. But, this is going to actually, based on what we've grouped on, in this case, sold to name and item, it'll aggregate that data up to those levels. So if we want to do, let's say, a gross profit or calculate profit percent, we can drag that in to the last column. And now instead of just making that a sum, you notice there is a defined custom formula, and that's what we want to do. So we take a custom formula. You'll notice on the left, this is about the extent within the authoring tool that you can build calculation. So you can do division, addition, subtraction, multiplication. You can do aggregation. There isn't really a robust, editing formula toolbar or anything like that. I'm assuming that is something that is going to get enhanced moving forward, but not just yet. So if we want to look at division, so right here we need to do the sum of our profit divided by the sum of our extended price. So if I go ahead and choose division, I can pick the dividend and choose nested function and edit that. I'll make this our sum of our calculated profit. So now it says summation of calculated profit. So I go down here and select the divisor, nested function, and edit that. We can do the sum of, instead of calculated profit, maybe extended price. Okay. So now we've got our sum of profit divided by price. Choose OK. And now let's go ahead and format that as our percent. And maybe in this case we do want 1 decimal. And let's go ahead and copy that and paste. Copy that one more and paste. Okay. So when you do copy, unfortunately this might be addressed on future versions, but the format, the summation sticks, but the format doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and just reformat these guys that we've copied. And I'll format those dollars, and then these last two we'll format these as a percent. Okay. Now let's go ahead and just rename our columns here. This was our quantity ordered. This was our extended price. This was our gross profit. And this might be our gross profit percent. Okay, so now if we go ahead and save that, we would call this one, this will be our formatted. Okay. And when you actually build these types of reports, you want to basically view these as like a PDF or Excel, not an interactive. These type of technique to build these row-based reports do not render well in an interactive. But here you can see within this report, now we've got our customer and the item in a much more formatted flavor than a typical one-view example. Okay, so let's go back. There's a couple other settings we want to check as we before we save this back and then view this with more data. So if we go back and hit return here, one of the things that can address some issues that we've seen with lists and is there's a setting under formatting. I just basically clicked on return, went to properties of the report, and at the very bottom this use 11.1.1.5 compatibility mode. We'll hit true on that and choose OK. And the last thing we'll do is we've got these two different layouts that we've created. You might create, again, reports that have several layouts in them. If I go ahead and view a list, so the top one we might want to have any format, but the interactive being the default. The bottom one, because we know we really want them to be viewed as a PDF or Excel, let's just limit the formats to PDF and Excel and make PDF our default format for that. So now when we save this report and go back out of here, and if we go and want to view this with data, right, now when I go to our sales ad hoc report, we can now view our interactive report. Bring us our data. This is where you go get your cup of coffee. Okay. Now we can kind of see this with a little bit more data here. So if we look at, clicking on our filters, it'll drill down. We can go ahead and select, again, within a chart, it creates a filter and updates everything else around it. So the pivot tables, you can drill down within that as well. You can also, in the pivot tables, when you click on it, it'll open it up in a separate window, and you can navigate through the pivot table. That way you can even drag stuff around within your columns and rows of your pivot table here as well. So that's kind of that's what we like about these lists at the top, is that they're kind of nice, because you might want to look at everything that's at a sales update, right? It'll give you just the values based on what it is. You can also select multiple values. So let's say I want to look at accessory and bicycle catalog. I can just hold Control and select multiple of those. So just a nice little quick way to get at the data. I forgot to relabel our bar chart there. So that's kind of the interactive. Let's go back and look at the example of the formatted report as well. All right, so that should be coming up here in a second. So in this case, we can see as we scroll down the different, we bolded the customers and then have the items there as well. Okay. So if you think about it, again, we hope that these templates help give you a little bit some options around getting some good content with one-view reporting. Some of the struggles that a lot of customers have, one is the 10,000 row limitation. Others are just building calculation. We've had customers that, in HR want to be able to concatenate the first name and last name together. And if they're not, you can't, because you don't have a true formula editor within the report authoring, you basically have to come and revise your grid, or program your grid to give you exactly what elements you want, if you want to be able to see that displayed in a one-view report. And other customers that might want to go cross-module. Maybe I want to pull sales and inventory data together, and where I've got an inquiry grid on purchasing, and I've got an inquiry grid on inventory, but I don't have one currently. So unless you build a grid to provide you the output, you can't really do some of that stuff with the one view. And that's kind of where the BI Publisher Enterprise comes in. So we're going to switch gears now, and